Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of To the Max Outdoors. Today's video, we are going to be taking a Euro mounted style buck that I do my own Euro mounts, but this buck here, it fell off the wall a few different times and broke the nose piece off of it. I probably got a little excited with the bleach and the peroxide when I was doing it. Nevertheless, anybody that's got kids, like I said, these Euro deer mounts like you see here behind me, a pretty common thing for me to do. I enjoy doing them. Couple 2 or 3 hours, 4 or 5 days a week, gets them done. Pretty simple to do. We'll do a video on that if I ever happen to harvest another one that I like. But nevertheless, I do these myself. Anybody that has young kids around will know that this kind of Euro mount stuff here that hangs around in the basement where we had a playroom when Max was younger. This deer here got knocked off the wall quite a few times, and like I said, he broke himself. This buck is probably 4 years old. I think I've had it about 4 years here. And I've been searching for some way to redo this Euro mount. I'm not a huge fan of the velvet, like the piece of velvet on a wood. I'm not a huge fan of that stuff. Not saying I don't like it. It's just not. It doesn't really fit the way I put my mounts on the wall. I kind of like either a natural look, like a Euro mount, like I got here, or some kind of rustic look. But nevertheless, I was piddling around at my local Dick's Sporting Goods, and I run across this Euro mount. It is made by Mountain Mike's Reproductions. I'm kind of familiar with them. They do some taxidermy mount stuff, like the forms and stuff. I'm not a taxidermist by no means, but I've used some of their squirrel stuff before, and I really liked it. Now, what I did was I come back home, and these are sold by measurements, and this happens to be a medium. And I measured it out in the bases, as you can see here, the bases of the actual skull versus the base of this worked out exactly like I want them to. This happens to be a what they call a medium size mount, which probably most of the whitetails in West Virginia are this mount unless you get a really old buck. There again, this buck to me is a trophy. It was a bow kill buck. It was an archery killed buck from Webster County, deep in the mountains. I hunted this buck for probably somewhere in that month and a half range. I had him on camera a bunch. I had a couple instances where I either couldn't get a shot off on him or things didn't work out. But I finally connected with this deer, and this is a trophy to me. It's by no means a huge buck, but it's a trophy to me. The area that it came from and that part of the state's rugged. There's no agriculture there. These deer solely live on a nut mass crop or God's will, because anybody that's been in that part of the mountains, there's rocks, laurel, and you better hope to God that he puts out a good oak or beech or a good mass. These deer have a rough life, but get through that. This is a trophy to me, and I'm proud to display it. I wanted to display it properly, so I found this. Like I said, it's called the Skull Master. It's Archer's Choice, or I'm sorry, Archer's Choice endorses it, which is a TV show with a husband and wife. And like I said, again, I believe the people that make it is Mountain Mike Reproductions. There again, I'm somewhat familiar with them, so I was pretty confident in buying it. Like I said, I bought it from my local Dick's Sporting Goods, and I think I gave 30 bucks for it. And I hope it turns out decent. At the end of this video, we'll hang it here on the wall. I'll take one of them down and hang another one there, and we'll give you this shot, see if you can tell, and then we'll do a close-up. They have some videos on YouTube about how to do this straight from Mountain Mike's, and they're pretty old videos. I watched them. It seems pretty simple. I'm just going to do a basic rundown of what to do. They're the manufacturers of it. If you buy one of these, watch their videos. I believe the guy that made it is the one that should tell you how to do it. I'm just going to show you how I did it. So, tools recommended per their video. Obviously a hacksaw, because you got to cut the antler from the skull. They recommend a 3/16 drill bit. I'm going to go with a number 10, which is a little bit bigger than 3/16 in a decimal number, because these screws are a lot bigger than 3/16 in the decimal number. I don't want to crack these antlers, and they're a smaller, they're not a big heavy based antler. In the videos, the guy does in the video, it's probably a Midwestern whitetail. It's got 2 to 3 inch bases on it. Our deer, the bulk of our deer don't have bases like that we kill regularly. So I'm going to drill my hole. It's like 7/1000ths under the coarse thread of the screw. In my mind, I'd rather drill a hole almost as big as a screw and use some kind of construction adhesive or Gorilla Glue. I don't want to take a chance busting these antlers. Like I said, this is a trophy to me and I want to display it. I don't want my horn bases busted, so that's why I did it. If you don't want to do it, by all means, these guys that are manufacturers do it exactly like they say. I'm not overriding them in no way. But that being said, I think I talked about the hacksaw and the drill bit, and I'm going to use a file. Once I cut the antler base off of the skull, I'm just going to use a standard rasp file, and I'm going to file it down smooth to fit the right contour here. So I've already started cutting on one of them. I'm not going to show you cutting both of them because you don't want to see me standing here with a hacksaw, but you get the general purpose of what I'm doing. And like they say in the video, I'm going to take the hacksaw and I'm going to cut right down the base. Let's see if you get it there. You see my thumb is on the burr of the antler. I'm going to cut exactly parallel down the burr of that antler. And I'm going to cut both of them off. Now, I'll bring you back when I get them both cut off. You don't want to see it. It's too boring. A lot. It's that easy. Through the magic of editing, I've cut both antlers from the skull with the hacksaw. No, in all honesty, it probably took me about 12 to 15 minutes to cut both of those off there. I had one base that the burrs were nice and parallel with. It was pretty easy, one straight cut through it. Like I said, keeping the hacksaw, used the burrs of the base, guided it straight. Now, on the passenger side, the right side of this deer, his base is convex. It's not flat, is what I'm saying. It has a hump in the middle of it. So what I've done was I took the hacksaw blade, I followed it to the peak, started on the other one, and come to the peak, met them up. And then we talked about the file earlier. I took the file and I used the cutting edge, the teeth of the file, and I run right along the base of the antler until I started just barely scraping the burrs. Now that surface is parallel to the burrs. Same way with this one. I filed the back side of the peak to the burrs and the front side of the peak to the burrs. Now, I don't think I mentioned earlier in the video is I took a tape measure here and I took some just general rough estimates. I took some rough measurements of the outside width of this deer, and I tried to measure up from the eye sockets. This deer was somewhere in that 16.5 inch wide at the insides of the beams here. And this deer here also kind of grew back and up. He wasn't a perfect like straight up, straight out buck. He was more laid back. I'm going to try to duplicate this on my replica mount. So there's your skull, which is no longer any good because it got knocked off the wall by a baseball for some kids in the house. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the skull plate off, and on the back of this skull plate here, by my finger, by my index finger, on the base of where the bases go down, there's preformed holes there. What I did was I took and lined this up to where my base, to where my burrs evenly match around all this, just like it would come out of the head of the original one. Took my number 10 drill bit and I drilled a hole in it there, so now I'll know where I needed to go. I did that all off camera. And I did both of them same way. Poked holes into both the bottoms of both of them. I'm sorry. Now, a little tip that I'm going to tell you that they didn't tell you in the video. There again, I'm a tad bit OCD. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my screw, and I know when I put my screw through this mount, I'm going to take a Sharpie, a red Sharpie, and I'm going to make some marks on the thread of this screw. I want to know how much of this screw is going to go up into this antler. I'm going to take that and I'm going to transfer it back over to my drill bit, and I'm going to make a mark on my drill bit. I don't want to drill this any deeper than I have to. Like I said, this buck kicked back and then went up. He didn't come up straight perfect. So I want to make sure that I don't run my drill bit out of the side of one of these antlers. So I'm going to make a mark all the way around. I'm just going to lay the Sharpie on the drill bit here, and I'm going to trace a line around it. That way I don't have to go crazy and drill and pop out the side of the antler. I don't want that to happen. Remember, I told you this is a trophy to me. This deer means something. I hunted hard for this deer, and I like it. I want to display it for a long time. So there again, that's just peace of mind for me. I marked the screw through the base, marked the depth of my drill bit. Now I know what I needed to do. And I've drilled enough into this horn that I know the angle that I need to drill it. So all you're going to do is drill into that antler until you get to your stopping point on your drill bit. I do recommend having a little shop back here because it does make a mess and you don't want this stuff everywhere. I'm actually in the room here. You can't see it off the side, but my air conditioner and my heating unit's down here, and I don't want to suck this stuff in my filter. So I hope that helped there. A little bit of a general rundown of how I held that up, marked the hole, put me a nice deep start drill in it. It gives me an angle for my drill bit. I'm going to drill both of these off camera, and we'll bring it back when we're mounting it to it. All right, here we are. We're back. We've drilled. We run our drill bit to the desired depth through the base of these antlers, through this skull plate. And in my opinion, that's probably the hardest part of that. Like I said, this mountain bikes, they have their own YouTube video of them actually doing it. They have a little vise that holds this thing, and I think that would make it 100 times easier. But anybody that's been following me for any bit, you can see here behind me in my little man cave, I'm in the process of finishing it just when I get time. I finally got the drywall finished and painted. I haven't got me a little reloading bench and workbench built yet. It's in the process. I highly recommend, if you're going to do this, to have yourself a vise to hold this thing. You only got 2 hands and you need about 7 to do this, but I'm pretty comfortable and confident that I got it done. I'm going to mount my antlers to the skull plate. Now, like I said, I've been hanging drywall. I hang drywall with drywall screws and liquid nails. It's just something I do. I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of this liquid nails here, and I'm going to run just a dab of this through here. We talked about it earlier. I want a little bit of extra security because I drilled the hole just a tad bit tighter. So again, a vise would be way more handy than what I'm trying to do, but I'm simply going to put that in, and I'm going to run this screw through this antler. Now, I just snugged it down. I didn't torque it down. I just snugged it down is all I did right there. And that's pretty critical, pretty key point. Those guys even mentioned it in their video. All you're doing with the power drill here is just getting the screw 90% of the way in. I'm going to repeat that process for the driver or the passenger side, right side over here. Do the same thing. Get him started in here, and again, I really wish I had a vise that'd make this job a million times easier. Because if it looks like I'm struggling to do this, I am. All right, there we go. We got a backwards horned deer. No, we're good. All right, so there you go. We are just ever so slightly tightened up, and I think it's going to look just like I wanted it to. Like there again, the horns kick back rather than up. These horns kick back first rather than up. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to take a hand Phillips screwdriver and I'm going to hand tighten those screws down to where I'm happy with them. I think that's the point, or that's the part of this next step here is where you're trying to set that thing back to almost as original as it possibly was. So I'm going to leave the drill out of that. I'm going to take a hand screwdriver and I'm going to tighten them down, and we'll bring you back with a close-up review of how this goes. But before we go any further here, this bottom plate just simply bolts together. It comes with two little screws. That's probably the easiest part of it. You just go through plastic to plastic, so I'm gonna put them in by hand too. Again, I'm not trying to do a how-to on this. I'm just showing you how it worked out for me. If you really want to know, go watch those guys' videos. I'm by no ways trying to overrule them, but we'll bring you back when it's all together. There we go. I've got it all put together. I got my measurements back right. I think I made a mistake earlier in the video there. I think I said 16 1/4, 16 1/2 inside. It was actually 18 1/4, 18 1/2 inside. I had to go back. That's why I write stuff down. My memory isn't the best anymore. But there again, I got this buck put back together. I got these horns mounted. I got some construction adhesive on my screws. This little kit here actually comes with a little tube of what they call gap filler. Gap filler, not feeler, filler. I'm assuming it's for around the bases if you weren't happy with it, but I think that's where 10-15 minutes of time of sanding it down to get it right. Does it have a tad bit of a gap in it? Yeah, it does. Are you going to see it from 5 or 6 feet? Absolutely not. So in my instance, I'm going to choose not to use that. There again, there's 3 sets of antlers here, 3 skull mounts. You can see them all. Can you tell which one is the reproduction skull and one's the real one? So these 2 fellows right here are real. These are real European mounts that I've done. They have some varnish on them. This one right here is the one I just did. Overall, I'm really happy with it. You can see the base is mounted up nice. See the bottom of it looks good. It's got the teeth molded into it. I'm extremely happy with it. Probably overall, it probably took me about 45 minutes to an hour to do it. It even has a slot cut out in the back of it for a screw already, whereas these other ones here, you can see right there, I've just drilled and put a picture hanger in them. I've only got 2 spots here on the wall for deer. I'm trying not to put a bunch of holes right here in my desk, or my bench will end up going there, but we'll go over here and take a quick peek at this. There they are hanging on the wall. And I don't really think that anybody is going to know that one's reproduction and the other one's real. I think they're just going to think that they're all real. So there you go. This is the one we just did. This is the real one. This is another real one. Overall, pretty happy with it. There again, I'll try to put a link to this down in the bottom of the description of the video. It's a Mountain Mike's Reproduction Skull Master. Like I said, it's endorsed by Archer's Choice, and this was the medium, what do they call it? 4 7/8. Mine's 4. Oh, for antler bases under 4 7/8. That's what it is. Okay, diameter of them. That's a medium. It worked perfect. So anybody got any questions? Leave me a comment. I'll try to get back to you. Like I said, you can shoot me an email to themaxoutdoors@gmail.com. I'll be happy to answer it for them. All in all, I'm really happy. I probably actually will go buy another one and do another one. I've got one outside that got weathered on me. That deer laid down in the creek and got away from me about a month, but squirrel chewed on its horn a little bit, and I waited a while on that one and left it outside, and the skull got really weathered. Honestly, I think that looks really good. I'm overly impressed with it, the way that turned out. And like I said, 45 minutes to an hour, I had it done. You need a little vise. The only thing I can say is have you a little vise or some kind of clamping device to drill the holes in it. But overall, in all honesty, I think those look really good. I'm really impressed with it. So again, I'll try to put it down in the description what it was and where like I said, I got it from my local Dick's. Don't know if they all carried or not, but mine did. Leave me a comment on what you think. And leave me a comment if you guys have ever used it before. Thanks for watching To The Max Outdoors.